just wanted to beat the Ghost Rider. It's not too much to ask. I don't ask for a lot in life. Not this Ghost Rider, but this Ghost Rider. Retro Kevo here, by the way. And of course, we're talking about Wheelie, the ZX Spectrum 1983 release. Cracking game, really frustrating, but really well designed game, made in 1983. 5 to 6 hours I played this game yesterday. Oh, it was doing my head in. Let's just crack on with the footage and see how I got on. So here we go, Wheelie, and boy do I know this game well now. I played this game for about, honest to goodness, it must have been about 5 to 6 hours yesterday. Lots of frustration, lots of Spectrum rage, but wow, this game is pretty well constructed. Anyway, about the game, as you can see, I'm taking it really nice and steady at this stage because you've got to conserve your fuel. The point of the game, as many of you will know, is to get to the Ghost Rider. It takes about 6 or 7 minutes. You've got your 4 lives. You can't run out of fuel. That takes another life off you. And as you can see, plenty of obstacles. The little squares there, you have to wheelie over. Boy, I was lucky there. Now, I'm not playing this and talking at the same time. I tried to do that yesterday, but it's just too difficult. It takes a lot of concentration, this game. It really does. So, the idea of the game is you drive along. You have to work out your route. Left to right, side scrolling, as you can see, so you cannot see on the far right of the screen your exit point. Some of them are blocked parkways, and as you saw there, some of the things you have to do are the jumps. Now you have to get the speed of the jump just right. Too slow, crash, lose a life. Too fast, crash, lose a life. And as you saw there, those hedgehogs, it's hedgehogs on this level, as you can see, the bouncing hedgehogs written down there in the bottom right hand corner. You can freeze them with the fire button. I'm playing with my QuickShot 2 joystick through the Kempson interface, but you press the fire button and you can freeze those hedgehogs just for about 2 seconds, enough time to get underneath them. So it gets a bit taxing and it can be very cruel in places. The little sort of circles you see moving around are points, I believe. I think you get 50 points, but I wasn't concerned about that. So you can see there, dead end, but there's no rush to get to the point you need to get to. So the idea is you need to get to the Ghost Rider, the evil Ghost Rider, for God's sake. Honest, it was driving me nuts yesterday, but you've got to get to the Ghost Rider. The point is, once you get to the Ghost Rider, you touch him once, and then you have to race back to where you started. As you can see, they're doing a few jumps. Now the ice, you've got to do nice and slow, not too slow. It's more about don't change your speed. If you change your speed when you're in between those ice words, you're going to slip, another life gone. So the point is you get to the Ghost Rider and then you have to race him back. Now, I obviously get to him and he doesn't have to do the map. He just goes through the walls, dead level, dead straight, same speed, pretty slow, but you obviously have to navigate the map on your way back and find the best route again in reverse. The other thing is fuel. You can see I'm driving really slowly. This conserves the fuel. After playing it a lot of yesterday, I worked out this was the best way to make best use of your fuel. So I was looking at picking up gas. As you saw, you can see the word gas. Obviously you drive through it, pick up gas. I was trying to pick up 1 in every 3. So if you go bombing along, really go through your fuel very quickly, you're just not going to make it. You're not going to make it. Believe me, through my experience yesterday, you're just not going to make it back if you rush towards the Ghost Rider. So that's the point of the game. Trying to guess, you start to get a sense. Now, the map itself, I didn't look into whether it's generated new all the time. I think it probably is. There may be set maps that you get used to, because I started to feel as if I knew where I was going a little bit sometimes. And then you have to rely on that gaming sense, you know, you sort of think, you just feel like you know which path to take. It's basically up, down or middle on this, and of course you don't get it right, but you start to get a gut feel. But that is the basis of the game, but it's the playability for this game, and that the sound of the motorbike. Now, for the ZX Spectrum 1983 this game was written, They absolutely nailed it, especially the sort of low rev. It even sounded very much like a sort of throbbing motorcycle engine. So that is the basis of the game. I'm taking it nice and steady, as you can see. So sorry if it's a bit sort of not entertaining at this point. Really low on fuel here. I can't remember. I'll probably run out. And then I worked out sometimes it's better to run out fuel than die. Obviously you've only got a set amount of lives. Obviously you do die, I mean, but better to run out of fuel and lose a life that way than crash. Because I noticed a couple of times I'd crash very low on fuel. When the game starts again with one less life, obviously, you still are on the same fuel you were before you died. So there you go. I managed to get to that fuel. And it becomes very taxing. Sometimes I think at one point yesterday I played it for about 2 hours straight, trying to beat the Ghost Rider back. Now you're probably getting an inkling that I've done it. I'm not going to say for sure and tell you whether I did it or not, but doing some research on YouTube and stuff, I started to realise that a lot of people found it really difficult to beat the Ghost Rider back. It's fairly standardly easy to get to the Ghost Rider, but beating him back is hard. And when you see how fast he goes, you sort of think, yeah, you know what, this is going to be easy. Not so, because you run into dead ends, you get a little bit of a panic on, thinking, I've got to beat him, and then that's why it's so important to conserve your fuel, leave some fuel on the course for your way. But as you can see there, running towards a dead end again, you have to drop down. It can be really frustrating sometimes. I had a few real rage moments yesterday. I thought, I've had enough. But it sort of made me think about when I was a kid, really, and how you would really persist. You'd have no worries of playing a game all day just to get past one certain level, and you know what, you would just carry on. I don't know whether it's because you only had a sort of certain amount of games then, or just being young at that age you're more persistent. You can see here now, just going back to the game briefly, I don't want that gas, so I've left that gas. So when you're full on a full tank like that, so there you are, a few more jumps. But yeah, going back to what I was saying is, I don't know whether when you're sort of 13, 14 years old, you're just, more resolute, or, I think basically it probably comes down to time, because, as you all know out there, retro gaming, most of us are older and you just don't have the time with family life. But I sort of thought to myself yesterday, I'm going to throw a day at this. I really want to try my best, and, in a way it took me back to that state of mind. God, look at that. I felt certain that time. I remember playing that was the route, I needed to go. But we're sort of slowly getting there, as I say, nice and slow. But yeah, the game itself, 1983, was made by the same people who did School Days. All of you Spectrum lovers out there, you'll know School Days well. School Days came out in 1984, but this was pretty successful. Made by Microsphere company. A company was founded in 1982 by Dave and Helen Reedy from London, and they really did a cracking job with this game, and obviously School Days. They did some other titles as well, but apparently, they did everything sort of basically at home, I think, and they preferred the old way of doing the graphics and stuff, graph paper, etc. And I think when the sort of 16-bit era came in, they sort of called it a day, which is fair enough. But there you go. Oh, another death, out of fuel. But as I said, sometimes it's best to run out of fuel than to sort of die in an accident. The key is to preserve that fuel. So yeah, David and Helen Reedy, as I said, you know what, they made this game and others, but yeah, 16-bit era came in, and as I said, they called it a day. But they got this in their resume and School Days, which is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I'm making my way slowly towards the infamous Ghost Rider, and it's one of those games where you have to really concentrate at the start, because even though you felt it was easy, you couldn't make any silly mess ups. You basically want to get to the Ghost Rider with at least 2 lives, really, because you're going to be, as you see, you're going to be panicking more when you're actually racing the Ghost Rider back. you start to get that little, a little bit nervous, sort of nervous energy where you think, oh yeah, the race is on now. And you start to feel a little bit more of adrenaline rush. There you go, there's more gas coming there, and I wanted to avoid it, save it. But yeah, when you start to get that little bit of adrenaline once you get to the Ghost Rider. But I think the key is with all gaming is to just stay nice and sort of calm, don't get het up. Keep it nice and cool. Well, hopefully you want to keep it nice and cool. Now, talking of motorbike games on the Spectrum, I was going to do a video on Kickstart 2. Now, everybody who knows the Spectrum will know Kickstart 2, but I was playing it and I forgot how difficult Kickstart 2 is. It's sort of like quite tedious, that game, it's really easy to fall off the bike. So I thought I'm going to have to do a bit more practice on that game. Obviously, anybody who knows my videos, I did 3D Death Chase. I mean, that's another classic motorbike game. For me, it sort of rivals this one. Different sort of games, but I'm thinking I probably edge on this one now for playability. But 3D Death Chase, another fantastic motorbike game. Obviously, let me know. I don't know all the motorbike games on the ZX Spectrum, but as I say, this one on 3D Death Chase, absolutely love them. Absolute classics. So we're slowly making my way there. I think you go from one, it sort of feels like one area to the next area. I'm playing it all yesterday. I think there was probably you probably have about 6 or 7 little areas where there's a little gap between. And that's what I'd say, so coming up to more gas, definitely need that. Got down to sort of quite a low amount. But I'm feeling like I'm really getting there now. And I was looking at my lives at this stage thinking, yeah, 3 lives, looking pretty steady. I've got a chance, I'm thinking, I've got a chance. There's the old ice. Now, I very rarely start to lose lives on ice. I worked out it was just about not changing gear or going up the gears. And look at that, blimmin' stupid. But I didn't want to turn too early there. Turn anywhere near the ice and you're off. That's another life gone. Sometimes this could be a bit tricky, pausing the hedgehogs. The way the game was set up randomly, they would be in real tricky areas where you're having to go back and forth right where a hedgehog is. But not too bad there, steady as she goes. Right, watching it again now. I'm getting close. I'm getting close to the Ghost Rider. Oh, he was doing my head in yesterday. Now this is it. You can tell because you just get a long sort of part of the screen with just the centre aisle there that you're driving down. And you finally get to meet the infamous Ghost Rider with his glowing red motorcycle. He's coming, and there he is, you blimmin' sod. Honest to God. So there you go, you can touch him once to start the race. The race is on, as it says. Touch him again and you're dead. You lose lives. So I worked out that I didn't want to touch him, so I stayed quite well back. At this point I'm thinking, yeah, nice and calm. I says to myself. But also I got to the point where I was going to start, it sounds a bit sad, I was going to get my wife in. She would have liked being roped in. But I was going to get her to write down the, middle, upper or lower entrance or to get out of the screen I was on, if you like. Because you forget. But I was getting near that point yesterday, but I thought, no, we'll keep going. And I sort of remembered a little bit on my way back. It's quite difficult. You can see there, I've headed towards a dead end. Ghost Rider's getting ahead of you. A bit frustrating, but you've got to remain calm. Try and work out the route back. There you go, another dead end. So all the while you're making these little mistakes, he's getting ahead of you. Slow and steady he is, and he probably thinks slow and steady wins the game, wins the race, and believe me, 99% of the time it does, and he does win. So now at this point I'm thinking, how far ahead is he? So there you go there. I'm thinking, can I get to the gas? I've got a lot of lives left here. I've got 3 lives left. When I get to the gas, Not the biggest issue if I don't get to the gas. There you go. I knew I wasn't going to get to that, so I was prepared to lose that life. Once you lose a life running out of fuel, you get a full tank. So that gives me a bit of a chance to sort of accelerate down the course, possibly catch up with the Ghost Rider. So here we go. Still feeling quite confident. Got 2 lives left. Just hoping I take the right path along the map. It's just a bit of luck, you know, nice and steady on the ice. See, that was quite quick. I remember thinking it's more about not slowing down or speeding up. Don't use the brakes, which is obviously the same in real life. Ride a motorcycle or even a car to a point, touch the brakes on ice and, you know, you're going to slide. I'm still thinking at this stage he's not too far away. The jumps as well. I worked out when you go full speed, you'll crash and die on the jumps, but one selection down, if you like, from full speed will always be good on the jump. So I'd get to full speed, drop it back 1, and that would always get you a good jump. So that was good to know. That was just one of those things from playing a game constantly. Obviously, it's just the way gaming is. You start to learn little things. But at this point, I was starting to think he's quite far ahead of me, especially here. But I could see the route through, bottom left there. It was the only one. Didn't really need that gas, so use that chance to catch up with the Ghost Rider. Little mistake there. Back again. Now I was thinking, do I go right to the top or right to the bottom? It's a little square, you got a wheelie over, so it's just a bit of luck. As I said, I was going to get my wife to sort of try and remember. There he is. So at this point, so you can't go down there. If I go down at exactly the same time as him, I'm going to hit him, lose a life. But now I'm starting to think, yeah. Oh, I couldn't go up there again. Can't crash him. So, but I'm starting to feel a bit confident now at this stage. Blimmin' ice there, slowing me down. Nice and steady. Bit of acceleration, get over that jump. Slow down here, because I knew I'd hit him again. At that point I thought I'd lost, because I thought he'd nearly got there, but then there was another little area. My confidence level started to rise. Little mistake there. And yesterday, there were a lot of those. But you know what I did? I played it all day yesterday. Ran out of fuel. It's no biggie. I've got 1 life left. Going to get a full tank of fuel. But I played it all day yesterday. I think sometimes you just get a bit mentally tired. So I got up this morning, had a cup of coffee, put the game on, and sort of fresh brain, give it another go. And I think sometimes that freshness, bit of sleep, I'm going through that gas, didn't really need it, but I was just going down there thinking it was part of the course. But now I'm thinking I've got a little lead over the Ghost Rider. There he is, just can't make any mess ups at this point. Here we go. And I'm thinking I'm going to do it. Just got to make the right decisions. And it is a bit of luck, you know, barring sort of writing down or trying to video the course or something, you know, it is a little bit of luck. But the minute I saw this, I knew I'd done it. You know, I did one of those sort of glory jumps. Glory jump in the air after 6 hours yesterday. Got up, first thing this morning, first go after a cup of coffee, and I did it. I was so happy with myself. But that is it. I got a code to start the next part of the game, which I didn't do. But there you go. I beat the Ghost Rider, and I blimmin' loved it. Just done a little bit of fun there with the slow-mos and stuff. That's generally how I felt. I know it didn't come across so much because I was sort of talking over the footage, as it were. But yeah, really great feeling to do it. And that was Wheelie, 1983 release, as I said, on a ZX Spectrum. Really classic motorbike game. But like and subscribe if you like the content, and I'll be back with another video soon. Take care, everybody. Oh!